This is Candor Talk. Thank you for tuning in. Let's get right into the show. But before we get into the show, don't forget to check out our website, sylviaexpress.com. Hey, good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Candor Talk. And let me just get right into it. Before I talk about the actual hilarious memo that the GOP decided to release, including the imposter, I want to say this. Unfortunately, as anybody who listens to the show, you know that I'm an attorney, so I've been really, really busy. So I'm not likely going to be able to do any shows during the week. And so if you do listen to the show, I do apologize if you look for shows during the week, because I'm not going to likely be able to do them. And I'm going to do my best to make sure I can do them every single Saturday, because so much goes on with the imposter in the White House. So anyway, I just wanted to let you guys know that so you're never disappointed or think that I've abandoned the show or anything like that. That'll not happen. As long as the imposter in the White House is in there, I'm going to continue to talk. Okay, so anyway, it is growing more apparent that the GOP and Trump are incapable of governing. And it's not just that they're corrupt to the core, but they're also stupid. And let's just be honest, they're stupid. They made several miscalculations by releasing this memo. Now look, I was a proponent of them releasing it, even though people went after me about it. They were so angry with me for saying that. However, I felt it was better to release it and deal with any fallout than to allow speculation and conspiracies to control the narrative. And that's what was happening. But the imposter, keeping in the spirit of his overwhelming stupidity, he released it despite objections from the FBI, DOJ, and our intelligence communities. But anyway, I'm going to play a clip summarizing the ridiculous memo fiasco. Here it is.
Republicans promised a bombshell that would destroy any idea the Trump campaign colluded with the Russian government during the 2016 presidential election. But in the end, it did not meet expectations. President Trump declassified the memo written by top Republicans, allowing for its public release even against the advice of his own FBI director and the U.S. Justice Department. The 4-page report, which is part of a larger intelligence document, argues FBI investigators looking into alleged Trump ties to Russia hid the fact some of their research was funded by Democratic Party sources. It also claims the entire investigation was biased against Donald Trump from the beginning, and that some agents expressed anti-Trump views privately.
But I think it's a disgrace what's happening in our country. And when you look at that, and you see that, and so many other things, what's going on, a lot of people should be ashamed of themselves.
But Democrats argue the memo is simply a summary of Republican talking points based on inaccuracies. House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi says it's all part of a plan to distract Americans from the Russia investigation led by special counsel Robert-Mueller and alleged Trump campaign ties to President Vladimir Putin's government. In a statement, she said, President Trump has surrendered his constitutional responsibility as commander-in-chief by releasing highly classified and distorted intelligence. By not protecting intelligence sources and methods, he just sent his friend Putin a bouquet. Trump himself made the argument on Twitter prior to the memo's release that leadership at the FBI and Justice Department are out to get him. Some analysts believe that's more evidence Trump is actively obstructing the investigation.
If you look at the words out of Mr. Trump's own mouth, they're very incriminating. He said repeatedly, I need somebody in the Justice Department who will protect me.
It's doubtful the memo's release will change public opinion about the Russia investigation. Still, there's now an effort by some Democrats and Republicans to legally protect the Russia probe from what many believe is a White House effort to derail the justice process.
See, but here's the problem. The memo flopped. It was a failure. It was a big nothing that actually did more damage to Trump than good. And here are the mistakes that I see. First, a FISA warrant. A judge would have to approve of a FISA warrant. You can't just get one because you are a Democrat. Rosenstein, Mueller, Comey, none of them could get a warrant without a judge's approval. And what they did in this memo, what Nunes did in this memo, was he highlighted the fact that they had reauthorized a FISA warrant on Carter Page. Okay, which means that Rosenstein had gone to a judge and asked for them to reauthorize the warrant that was already on Carter Page. Why would they do that? They brought more intrigue to us spectators that are watching from the outside. Now, everyone knows that Carter Page was under surveillance because multiple judges believed that there was probable cause to surveil him. How does that help Trump? Knowing that he was previously affiliated with Trump. And 2 people that Donald Trump was affiliated with are under indictment. Another 2 people that Donald Trump was affiliated with, both are cooperating with the government. Both have guilty pleas. So how does that help Trump? I said another person that was affiliated with him was also under investigation as well. And that multiple judges had to authorize a warrant. How does that help Trump? Now, another thing that they did that was a huge mistake, big miscalculation. See, they should have allowed the speculation to continue and not release that memo. See, they overhyped the memo and then released some deflated, pathetic gibberish that doesn't even insulate Trump, even if everything they said in there were true. However, if they kept the story going, saying things like release the memo and fighting to try to release the memo and pretending like they're fighting to release this huge, big bombshell scandal, people would be free to claim anything was in it. No one would be able to disprove them either. You can't say that that's not in the memo. You didn't see it. I didn't see it. We can both say we don't know what's in it, but you can't say if I say certain things are in the memo, you can't say that's not true. You can't say that. You can't disprove me. You haven't seen it. So the thing is, and if you were listening to the narratives that were being created, the conspiracies that were being created, I was hearing all types of psychotic theories about what was in the memo. Like, I hope Obama has an orange jumpsuit because he's going to jail after what I heard was in the memo. People were making up all kinds of stories. They're like, oh my God, they tried to arrest Trump one night and then the FBI came and they saved him because they realized it was Hillary behind the plot. I mean, it was all kinds of stories were being made up about what was allegedly in that memo. That was better for Trump when that was happening. It's better for him if people can go to the extremes in their imagination of what's the content in that memo than to actually see the content of that memo and realize their theory that they had in their head is a farce. Probably brought on by their repressed psychosis, but I digress. But by the time the midterms come around or Mueller concludes his investigation, who is going to be thinking about the memo anymore, especially since it was a flop? Who's going to be thinking about it? However, if they didn't release it, the speculation would increase and they couldn't release it later at that point. Once the speculation becomes too great, you can't release it at that point because then it's even worse when people realize how much of a flop it is. But the thing is, you couldn't release it at the point because it would have deflated people. But you could have let the speculation to continue to increase. And then people would be outraged. That'd be grounds for them to want to come out and vote. That'd be grounds for them to want to fight the Democratic Party. But you released it too early. And as a matter of fact, you shouldn't have released it at all. You know, this is the thing. They miscalculated the entire thing from beginning to end. They should have allowed the speculation and pretended they couldn't release it because of the intelligence community. Let's remember, the intelligence community didn't want Trump to release it. But they could have used it as a weapon during the midterms, arguing that the corruption was so vast that the Democrats didn't want the public to know how corrupt the government is. That's why they kept fighting the memo being released. Now if they bring up the stupid memo during the midterms, nobody will give a damn. It's going to be old news. And the thing is, it doesn't have a bombshell. Why would you release it now? You had the upper hand. You had the upper hand. You were winning. People were acting scared. You had people afraid. You had Democrats on the defensive. Now, they're on the defensive, trying to explain this really stupid memo and why we should give a damn about it at all. Now, the third thing that I think was a huge miscalculation, they released it on a fucking Friday. Okay, that's one of the dumbest decisions I've ever heard of. Who was the genius that decided that? But oh, yeah, it was the imposter, of course. He decides he wants to release it on a Friday. If they were smart, they would have done it when they could have get maximum impact for as long as possible. They allowed the media to dissect and dismantle it without their ability to refute it because the media is essentially off on the weekends. You release it on Monday. Even if it's an utter failure. And then you spend the week trying to explain why it's the biggest scandal that ever happened. Now, you come back Monday, we're like, we heard about that on Friday. People moved on. I'm telling you, these guys have absolutely no idea what they're doing. And the problem for them is not just that people like me and regular average people are saying, look, this backfired. Because honestly, they had something on Twitter that was called Yo Memo jokes. Okay? And people were making jokes all night long about the memo. But it wasn't even just that. It backfired. Even John McCain spoke out. He recognized that what's happening by the imposter is dangerous. And here's what John McCain said.
Others spoke up today as well, including John McCain, who's home in Arizona receiving treatment for cancer. He wrote today, quote, "The latest attacks on the FBI and the Department of Justice serve no American interests. No parties, no presidents, only Putin's. The American people deserve to know all of the facts surrounding Russia's ongoing efforts to subvert our democracy, which is why Special Counsel Mueller's investigation must proceed unimpeded. Our nation's elected officials, including the president, must stop looking at this investigation through the warped lens of politics and manufacturing partisan sideshows. If we continue to undermine our own rule of law, we are doing Putin's job for him."
And then after the fiasco, Nunes' challenger raises $100,000 after what transpired. Here's part of the article from The Hill. It says, the Democratic prosecutor challenging Rep. Devin Nunes for his California House seat has raised more than $100,000 over the past 2 days amid the release of Nunes' controversial memo, according to the campaign. A campaign spokesperson for Andrew Jans confirmed to The Hill that Jans' campaign raised $111,506 over Thursday and Friday and $54,394 on Friday alone. And this is what he says. He says, our dramatic increase in contributions is a direct reflection of Nunes' actions, said Jans' campaign manager, Heather Grivens. Nunes has given Andrew's campaign the best gift we could have received. He put a national target on his back and has made this a top 5 race. He's doing everything possible to make this a winnable race for us. And let me just be very candid here. Nunes' district is very Republican, okay? Nunes has really outraised him, okay? Nunes has outraised his challenger. So I'm not sitting here pretending as though Nunes is going to lose his seat or anything like that. I don't foresee that at this particular time. But the problem is that he has weakened himself politically. Then on top of the utter stupidity, the memo does not help them. It does not help Trump. The memo actually confirms a timeline that doesn't help Trump. First, the counterintelligence probe opened in July 2016 by FBI because of George Papadopoulos, WikiLeaks, and the emails, which means it can't be blamed on the dossier. And you can't bring up Carter Page because it has to do with George Papadopoulos unless they are the same person, which we know they're not. Okay, then the FISA application on Carter Page was obtained late October 2016, after Page had left the Trump campaign. Which means Trump can't claim that's the basis of the Russia probe, and therefore he can't claim grounds to fire Rosenstein. There are none. The reauthorization of the FISA warrant was after it had been previously authorized, and before Rosenstein was the Deputy Attorney General. Therefore, a continuation of the warrant of a man no longer part of the Trump's campaign cannot be the basis for firing Rosenstein. It did not impede Trump at all. So there's no real grounds for that at all anymore. That timeline didn't help Trump. And Trump and the Republicans are too stupid to recognize how dumb they are for releasing this. And then on top of that, Republicans are retiring. Why are Republicans retiring? Here's what's happening. Here's a clip.
Ray Gowdy of South Carolina, he is not going to seek re-election, as we all know. He kind of came to fame. First of all, he came in with the Tea Party wave of 2010, came to fame chairing the Benghazi Committee, where he led the now famous marathon questioning of his nemesis, Hillary Clinton. He said today he's leaving Congress to return to the justice system. But importantly, remember the number 34. His departure brings the total number of Republican House retirements to 34. Cornell, no one needs to remind you that doesn't equal permission to flip the House. That's just Republicans leaving Congress. The latter is a big challenge.
Well, here's the thing. Look, in 2006, I worked for Governor Dean at the DNC. And I think then when we had a wave election, you had, I think, 18 or 19 Republican incumbents stepping down. This is a big deal in campaign terms, Brian, because knocking off incumbents is really, really hard, right? It's darn near impossible to knock off incumbents. In fact, you're seeing more incumbents knocked off in primaries. And open seats are real opportunities. They're really toss-ups. Now, I'm not saying that South Carolina seat is something that's going to be put automatically in play, but there's the sheer number of open opportunities for Democrats, along with a president with historical disapproval, a Congress with historical disapproval, and the majority of Americans thinking the country's headed in the wrong direction. That is getting right in line with what we saw in 2006 before we had the wave election.
Okay, so 34 Republicans are leaving. There are only 24 seats needed by Dems to reclaim the House. So here's my theory on everything that's transpiring. These Republicans, they know that the imposter is going down in burning flames. Listen, they've seen some of the evidence. They have access to a lot of this evidence. Maybe not everything Mueller has, but they've seen a lot of the stuff that we will never see. So they've seen a lot of this evidence. And the writing is on the wall. And the truth is they have no backbone to vote to impeach him. You know, some of them have actually tried to even protect him, like Nunes. Nunes wouldn't be doing these absurd memos if they were not trying to undermine Mueller, because they know bombs are dropping soon. If they believe that Mueller would exonerate Trump, then they want the probe to proceed and clear Trump. Nobody would be doing this if they thought that the investigation would bear fruit in favor of Trump. The reason why they're undermining is because they know what's about to happen. They know what's going to happen. So they are all fleeing like cowards. Trey Gowdy is leaving for the same reason. Because believe it or not, Trey Gowdy was willing to be scandalous and waste taxpayers' money on frivolousness. This isn't about his conscience and his respect for our institutions. He's fleeing like the rest because they know they'll have to make a decision about impeaching Trump, and they don't have the spinal cord to do it. They'd rather allow the Democrats to be the ones responsible for impeaching him. And so if they have to secede the House to the Democrats to allow them to be the ones that have to go forward and doing that, they're willing to do that. And also, they don't want to be tainted by Trump and ruin their lucrative options in the future. They're just pure cowards. But the truth is, this is a signal to the rest of us to understand. They're afraid. They're scared. And they're running. Because they know something bad is about to happen. And I've said this from day one, and I'm going to maintain it. The imposter in the White House will not last his entire term. He will either be impeached, he'll resign, or they'll invoke the 25th Amendment. Now, the impeachment is going to take work from us. We're going to have to get involved in the midterm elections. We need to get involved right now. And I'm going to talk about that after the break, what's going on there. But I'm going to talk about that after the break. I'm going to take a break right now. I'll be right back. All right, guys, back to the break. Thanks for staying on and listening. Okay, so let me just say, I said before the break that I would talk about what we need to do in order to make sure that we can get rid of the imposter in the White House, to make sure he is no longer allegedly the president of the United States, that I was going to talk about that after the break. And I want to play this clip real quickly from MSNBC because I think it summarizes why what I'm about to say after this is why this is so important that we get involved right now. Here's the clip.
I want to know what the people of this country are going to do if Rod Rosenstein is fired. We can't take this sitting down. Trump is winning. He's winning, kids. This crazy, wacky guy is winning. And a year into this, he is already, not chipped, has cut away at the things that protect us. Half of this country thinks the media totally lies. At this point, 44% of this country doesn't trust the FBI. Guess what? A year from now, if this doesn't change, maybe this table's in trouble. We keep talking like this. I'm not being dramatic. No, this is what's happening, kids.
There's a lot of validity to what he's saying. While the population, the people, they hate Trump, he's succeeded in undermining every institution that is set up to protect us. He's undermined the FBI, the CIA, the DOJ, the judiciary, the media, Mueller, and the list goes on and on and on. He's running the country like a dictatorship, where sooner or later those protections we take for granted will slowly be taken away. He's managed to disintegrate our understanding of what's respectable and tolerable. We ourselves are distrusting. We distrust things because he's managed to make distrust creep into our subconsciousness. I do believe in discernment and scrutiny. I'm a lawyer. But I think it's innate in me regardless. I think that's something that I have innate in me. It's just I'm really somebody who scrutinizes everything. I need to make sure that what you're saying and what is happening is logical in my mind. And that's just how I've always operated. However, to distrust the FBI and the intelligence communities that are thwarting terrorist attacks and making it safe for us to walk around freely aren't part of my scrutiny. I don't distrust these entities, and we have no reason to distrust them. There's been no evidence given to us that tells us we should distrust them, but some reason, the imposter of the White House, because he's under investigation, we now must distrust all those entities. Soon, we'll be questioning the importance of those entities as if they don't serve some importance to the United States. Russian sanctions, they were supposed to be enforced by the imposter on a certain deadline, and no one did anything when he didn't do it. He succeeded the U.S. to Putin's control, and we aren't outraged. Instead, we partially think some of the outrage is overblown. We no longer condemn it, and even me myself, sometimes we are bored hearing about it. It's become redundant and never-ending, even for those of us who understand how long this process takes. We've grown impatient and complacent. We're willing to negotiate and negate facts to support the delusions of a madman that's completely and utterly deranged. What he's done is abnormal. He is abnormal. We can't sit idly by and write off every stupid thing he does as just mere stupidity. He is allegedly the President of the United States. He has the arsenal that could end the globe. He's a threat to everything sacred. And it's time to get more active than before. We have weak people in Congress on both sides. Neither party is willing to stop Trump. Democrats have shown they are willing to publicly condemn Trump, but they take no action to stop it. Partially, though, I have to be fair, is because they are somewhat powerless in certain respects. But a major part of it is because they just are weak. The ones that voted to reopen the government, they aren't willing to vote to impeach Trump. Let's get real here. Let's not pretend like the Democrats taking over the House is enough. It's the right kind of Democrats taking over the House that matters. And this isn't hyperbolic partisan rhetoric, but the reality has to set in at some time. He doesn't care what happens to the U.S. as long as he's protected and profiting. By undermining and questioning these institutions, he wins unless he suffers consequences, period. And the only way dictators, despots, tyrants suffer consequences are when brave people stand up. We can't have weaklings and cowards in Congress. Therefore, it's time to stop our complacency and allowing the subtle normalcy of an erratic maniac. None of this is normal. We deserve a country that's progressing, not regressing. A country that believes in and follows the Constitution. A country that has checks and balances. The 2018 midterm election is the most important election of our lifetime. It's time to find those fighters that will ensure Trump cannot erode the principles we claim to hold. People that understand the serious threat to our democracy, the imposter in the White House. Now look, we're not going to be able to replace everybody. We need people to gain backbones. And the way they gain backbones is because of the people. The people give them the power. The power is ours. And we're going to give them the power. So now what we need to do is those people that are going to stay in Congress that aren't part of the 2018 election, but we know they're weak, we need to give them the backbone. Call Congress now and demand that they put an end to this bullshit. Call them. Demand that they put up or call it quits and let a replacement come in now. And look, here's the phone number because I'm going to give it to you guys so you can make sure. If you need to call and find out who is your representative and who is your senators, I'm going to give you the number. The number is 202-224-3121, and it'll direct you to whoever your representatives or your senators are. Once again, the number is 202-224-3121. Don't sit on the sidelines. Start doing something today. The midterms, the most important elections of our lifetimes. I'll be right back. Thanks so much for staying with us, guys, listening to Candor Talk, and I will be back next Saturday. If I do have time during the week, I'll make a show, but don't count on Wednesday shows anymore. I'm not going to be able to likely do that. My schedule is picked up so much. But you can also check out sylviaexpress.com during the week. I'm going to try to, when I get a chance, to post some articles and stuff like that on there, as well as videos and stuff like that that we do. So anyway, guys, I thank you so much for tuning in to Candor Talk, and I hope you guys have a great weekend. And don't forget, no complacency. We are going to make sure that the imposter is either impeached, they invoke the 25th Amendment, or he resigns. Have a good one.